Before we start the video, a large thank you to TV Hambika and MECU for their support on Patreon. It is greatly appreciated, gentlemen, and I hope you enjoy the video. And as always, a massive thank you to Halo Burner for their immense and continued support of the channel this month on Patreon. I hope you enjoy the video, my friend. Hello everybody, today we are going to make a system to load additive scenes around our main world scene. So first, I'm going to make a world scene manager. I'm going to create an empty game object, reset the transform, and add a script called World Scene Manager. Apologies if the resolution and the sound is different today. I am out on vacation visiting family, but I took the time to actually edit this video and record some of the clips for it while I was out here. So I'm going to open up this script as per usual, and I'm going to delete the start and update functionality, and I'm going to add in my namespace. So after that's done, we can just kind of save this. And I'm going to go over to the World Save Game Manager. I'm just going to copy the libraries here. So we're going to say using Unity Netcode, Scene Management. I'm also going to take the Load World Scene here. And I'm going to copy that and bring it over. Because we're not going to keep this on the Scene Manager. You can keep it there if you want to, but as this is the Scene Manager, I'm going to bring it over here. So next I am going to go to the function here now. And I'm just going to kind of change a couple things in here. We're not going to reference the player anymore. We're going to reference the player UI manager .instance.local player. And I'm going to add these comments here for activate our loading screen, get the world scene loaded, and then load our player's save data. And I pass a reference of the world save game manager .instance.current character save data. All right, very good. So next I'm going to make a comment up here, use to load our main world scene. I say this because we're going to have a different set of functions for the additive scenes, and we're going to start that right now. So first, let's make a public void load additive scene. And what we're going to do is go here now and make another comment, use to load additive scenes in our main world scene. So the world scene will be persistent and won't ever be unloaded once we get into the world, and the additive scenes will be a set of scenes that will come and go basically. So 1, make sure the scene is not already loaded. We need a way to do that. 2, load the scene. And then 3, we can say load extras in the scene like monsters, breakables, load those by the area. So for example, if area 2 loads, we have to load all the monsters and breakable objects in area 2. All right, so make sure the scene is not already loaded. How do we do that? Well, first we're going to pass a scene by its string name. And now we need to keep track of all the loaded scenes. So let's make a list. Oops, not audio list. We need to say using system.collections here. .generic. There we go. So a list of scenes. We can say loaded scenes is equal to new list scene. All right, so as we load scenes, we're going to add them here basically. So make sure the scene is not already loaded. For that, we can do a for loop, and we can look through all of the loaded scenes. And then we could say, if the scene is null, simply continue. That shouldn't be the case ever, but just in case. And if the loaded scene I.name is equal to scene name, and the scene is already loaded, we can say loaded scenes I.is loaded. We can simply return. All right, so add a comment. If the scene is already loaded, we're just going to abort. And if the scene is null, we're going to continue to look through the list. I'm adding more comments here to this one, guys, because this is going to be a lot of small moving parts. And if you glance back at it a month or 2 from now, I just want to be very clear what all this is doing. So we're going to go through this one a little bit slower than what we usually go through in terms of speed for these topics. So load the scene. We're going to make a variable for load scene status. And we're going to equate that to the network manager.singleton.scene.load-scene. We're going to pass the scene name, and then the load scene mode is going to be .additive. All right, now part 3 will be for another video, so that's looking pretty good. But we need to load multiple scenes at one time. So we're going to get to that momentarily, but let's make this world scene manager a network behavior. And then we are going to make the singleton for this because there's only ever going to be one in the game, and we need to access that. So let's make a public static world scene manager .instance, and we're going to say an awake here, and we're going to say if the instance is null, the instance is equal to this. Otherwise, destroy this game object. there should never be two. All right, so instance is equal to this, else destroy game object. Okay, cool. Now we have our singleton set up. Now let's go back down below awake. We're going to call override on network spawn and despawn, because as you've probably noticed, we haven't added our scene to our loaded scenes when we created that load additive scene function. Now, why is that? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to use scene events, and they're a lot better than just adding them there. So let's go to the network manager, or rather type network manager.scenemanager.onScene event, and then type plus equals. You can see here, I'm going to wait. It says press tab to insert. Go ahead and press tab. It'll auto create this function. And I'm going to rename this to, what am I going to name this? On scene event. There we go. So what does this do? Well, we're going to use this function because this triggers every time there's a scene event, as it would be suggested. And a scene event like when it's loaded, unloaded, etc. And now we can actually use this. And we can specifically use the variable that it requires, the scene event itself, to get some data from this. So what I'm going to do, first though, is make a comment here before I forget. Make sure when you're despawning this, you're unloading all the scenes. So when you join someone else's game, they're not still loaded for you. We'll get to that later. That'll be the next video, I think. Now we're going to say if network manager dot is not server return. We don't want to use this because we have no reason to unless we're the host. But otherwise, we're going to do a switch statement, and we're going to switch the scene event dot scene event type. And now you have all these events. So we have load, unload, synchronize, resynchronize, load event complete, unload complete. So load calls when you start a load. Load complete calls when it finishes. And the inverse of that is unload starts when you call an unload, and unload complete is called when it finishes. So under load complete, we're going to just say loaded scenes.add scene event.scene. That's it. And we can make a comment here if you want. You can say called when the scene is finished loading. Adds our scene to our loaded scenes list. All right, let's save that. Now down here under load additive scenes, what if we want to make a way to load multiple at once, because we're going to be loading 2 and 3 around the main scene most of the time? Well, we're going to make a coroutine called load additive scenes coroutine. And we're going to need to make a load additive scenes function to call this coroutine after, but we'll get to that after this coroutine's done. So we're just going to say yield return null to get rid of this error for now, and it's not going away, so I think I forgot to call using system collections. Let me just check here, make a comment first. So this comment is going to be used to load multiple additive scenes at once. All right, so this is still giving me grief. We're just going to say loading additive scenes when a new area. And the first thing we're doing here is we're going to check to see if a scene is already loading or unloading, because we can't load 2 at once. We have to do this one at a time. So we need to keep track of that. If it is, we're just going to simply wait. Okay, so I've added up here using system.collections, and there we go. That'll stop throwing me an error for the coroutine. All right, so after we do the check, the next thing we want to do is sort through a queue of scenes, so a list, and then load them one by one. Okay, so let's make a way to determine if we're already loading or unloading a scene first. So to do this, make 2 private bools, is loading, or scene is loading, and scene is unloading, and initialize them both at false. Now, after we do that, we can use our handy dandy onScene event function that gets called every time a scene event happens, and we can just kind of change these there. So we can go down to onScene event, and again, when you call load, that would mean a load has started. So we could put under load event completed is loading as false, and when we are loading, is loading will be true. So under load complete, scene is loading is equal to false. And then under load, scene is loading is equal to true, because again, this calls when the loading is started. And then we can do the inverse on unload and unload complete. So scene is unloading is equal to true when we're using the unload event. And then scene is unloading is equal to false when we get to the unload complete. So you can see how this is pretty useful for a system like this. All right, and we can save that. Now we have a way to sort through this. So what do? Well, we need a list of queued scenes first to sort through, which we're going to pass to the function that calls this coroutine. So for now, let's make a list of strings for queued scene IDs and equate this or initialize this as a new list. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop through this list of queued scene IDs. So we'll say for each queued scene IDs.count. And then we're going to say while scene is loading or scene is unloading, we're going to simply return or yield return null. So we're going to wait basically. And I don't know why I have to put this one in curly brackets because it's going to bug me if I don't. I have no idea why. Just a weird seb thing, I guess. So we're going to put that right there. All right. Now right below that, we can actually start loading these. So we can say if queued scene IDs is equal to null, simply continue and move on to the next. It should never be null, but just in case. Then we could say load additive scene, the function we just made. We pass the queued scene IDs 1. And just like that, there we go. So now, how are we going to call this coroutine? Well, we're going to get that in a sec as well. Let's make first a private int for queued scenes to load. So this is going to be how many we have left to load. And it will make more sense as to why we need this in the future. For now, don't really worry about it. I'll circle back around when it's relevant, but just know that for now we're keeping track of how many's left to load every time we load one. So then we're going to say queued scenes to load here, minus. Every time we load one, we take one off the counter. That's what minus does, if you're unsure, by the way. So next we're going to go right here and move this comment right above the load additive scene. And right below queued scenes to load, we're going to say yield return new wait for fixed update. There we go. All right. Then we're going to say just outside of this for loop, queued scenes to load is equal to 0 because by the time you finish this, there should be none remaining. All right. So that looks good. Now right below this, let's make a private coroutine variable. I'm going to call this loading additive scenes coroutine. And now at the end of this coroutine, we can also set this variable to null because we're going to basically make this variable this coroutine from the starter function we're about to create. So just set that coroutine variable to null. And now we can make the actual function to call this coroutine. So the function is going to be a public void load additive scenes. And we're going to make it require a list of strings. That'll be the queued scene IDs we pass, basically. So we're going to say loading additive scenes coroutine equals start coroutine, and we pass load additive scenes coroutine. Okay, so after that, just right above here, where we call that coroutine, let's say if network manager dot is not server, we're going to simply return. We don't want to run this unless we are the host, because the host is going to be who's syncing all these scenes for the clients who join. Now, make this function require a list of strings for the scenes to load. So basically, when you get into a new zone, you're going to pass this function however many scenes you want to load around the new zone, and then we're going to pass these off to this coroutine. So then we're going to say for each scenes to load dot count, we're just going to simply add these. We're going to say queued scene IDs dot add, and then we're going to add all these scenes one by one. And the reason why we're not just assigning the list is because you could have multiple people walking in multiple areas at once, and you may need to load multiple scenes. So you don't want to clear the list, you just want to add on to it. So we're going to pass all of our scenes to load to our queued scenes list. Like so. Let's make a comment here. And then we're also going to say load, or the queue, what did I call it again? The amount. Look at that. I have to scroll up here. Queued scenes to load dot count is equal to the list size. Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to say if loading additive scenes coroutine does not equal null, we're going to stop coroutine, and then we're going to stop the loading additive scenes coroutine. Save. Now back here under our events, when we're basically loading these scenes and they're done, we want to check to see if the queued scenes to load is equal to 0. If it is, clear it. And then we're going to say if loaded scenes.count, we're just going to go through them all, and we're going to say if it is not loaded, we're going to remove the loaded scenes from the loaded scenes list. So just this variable here, we're going to say if loaded scenes is equal to 0, clear the queued scene list, so it's completely empty. And this is just basically just an extra check, extra precaution in these events to make sure nothing kind of gets left or lingered if some part of the process messes up. Then we're going to do a for loop through loaded scenes again, and just make sure that if the scenes are not loaded, just clear them out. All right, now we have 2 errors here on the world save manager. And what you want to do is just go and basically change what we call load world scene. That's it. So just use your Singleton now for the world scene manager .instance. And just call this like so. And do the same thing here under our load game. So it's going to be world scene manager .instance .load world scene. There we go. Save that. Looks good. Go back into the game here now. And also make a prefab of your world scene manager. Just like this. Okay, that looks good. Now we can save this. Okay, gentlemen, I don't want to start unloading scenes in this video because we're already pretty deep into it, and that one's going to be just as lengthy, I'm sure. So in the next video, we're going to get into the functionality and how to unload our scenes, and hopefully we'll get to set up some trigger points in our scenes, and we'll actually go into the world and load and unload areas by the way, or by the location in which you're at those. And then as a bonus video, we'll do enemies, and in the future, we'll come back and do breakables too, by area. So one last time, apologies if the video resolution or microphone quality is off. I am away from my office. I do hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope you learned something new. I would like to take a moment to thank the people who like and comment on this video, and of course my patrons. It is because of each and every one of you the series may continue at all, so you have my gratitude. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week.